From the virtual newsroom of Impact Alpha, this is your Impact Briefing for Friday, January 22nd. I'm Brian Walsh. The word of the week is creativity, and I'm joined by Laura Callanan, an old friend and founder of Upstart CoLab, which champions creative economy opportunities for impact investors. Hi, Laura. Welcome back to Impact Alpha.
Hey, Brian.
And later we'll hear from this week's Agent of Impact, inaugural poet Amanda Gorman. But first, here's what you need to know from this week in impact investing. Call it the Tesla effect, or the Biden effect, or maybe the China effect. Falling costs and soaring demand mean investors and corporations can't get enough of electric cars, trucks, fleets, batteries, and charging infrastructure. A rush of deals is sending valuations soaring. Companies stopping up big funding include Rivian, Cruise, and Volta. In other signs that climate financing is picking up speed, Renewable Resources Group and Capricorn are floating a $250 million SPAC, or Special Purpose Acquisition Company. This one hopes to be the first B Corp SPAC with plans to invest in environmental solutions aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, specifically those SDGs dealing with renewable energy, water, and infrastructure. Lionshead closed on $400 million for its Facility for Energy Inclusion. They plan to invest in off-grid renewable power producers in Africa with projects of 25 megawatts or smaller. Breakthrough Energy Ventures raised another $1 billion to invest in startups with potentially game-changing climate solutions. That's on top of the $1 billion the billionaire-backed VC firm raised in 2016. Breakthrough has invested in more than 30 ventures so far and plans to back up to 50 more. And Impact Alpha had a scoop this week on the deal for Penn Foster, the online provider of low-cost degrees and certificates in high-demand fields such as healthcare, veterinary sciences, and early childhood education. Taking a majority stake were Bay Pine, a new tech private equity firm, and 2 Sigma Impact, the new impact fund under the $58 billion 2 Sigma hedge fund. This week, Impact Alpha featured essays on investing in the creative economy, and Upstart CoLab released a report on this growing sector of the global economy. I'm joined once again by Laura Callanan. Now, Laura, before we dig into this report, can you first tell us what we're talking about when we say the creative economy?
So the creative economy is the economy of art, design, culture, heritage, and creativity. But from an investment perspective, you really want to focus on creative industries. And Upstart CoLab has identified 145 creative industries that constitute the creative economy, and we've boiled those down to 5 main pillars: ethical fashion, sustainable food, social impact media. Then we have a other creative business category for design businesses, architecture, music, a whole bunch of categories like that. And then we've got something that we name creative places, which is it's the real estate. It's the places where creative activity happens and creative experiences are shared. And I'll just circle back to the food category because a lot of impact investors will say sustainable food, there's all sorts of impact investing happening in sustainable food, and how can inputs and small farmer schemes and what are you talking sustainable food? Obviously, there's a long sustainable food and ag supply chain, and we're focused on that place where the organic, locally sourced, fair trade inputs get transformed, where the value's added, and they get transformed into the food product or the experience. So where the organic, locally sourced, artisanal milk is transformed into delicious cheese, or where people are able to come together and share cultural traditions in an atmosphere around food.
Now, in this report, you mentioned that the creative industries account for 3% of global GDP, but that's actually growing at 9% each year. So how do you see that growing in the future, and where do you see the creative economy heading in the coming years?
The UN system predicts that very soon, obviously this is a pre-COVID prediction, but let's assume we're in the ballpark, that we're going to be reaching 10% of global GDP as creative economy. So the 3% number that you identified is now 8-10 years old. And UNESCO is anticipating that the creative economy is going to be so significant globally, it's going to be 10% of global activity, which is very, very exciting. Already we know that it's 30 million jobs in the formal economy. It's 300 million jobs in the informal economy. There's a lot of activity that's happening that's connected, as I said, to art and design and culture and heritage and creative activity.
Now, Upstart CoLab, which you founded, it turns 5 years old in April. Is that right?
That's right. Yep. We were launched with an event at the Ford Foundation in April 2016, co-hosted by Darren Walker and Yo-Yo Ma.
That's quite a duo there.
Yep.
And you really are trying to apply what you call a creativity lens to investing in the creative economy. And you liken that a lot to the gender lens investing. So can you talk a little bit about what this lens does for investors?
Yeah, Upstart was launched because we believe that creative people solve problems. We're disrupting the way that creativity gets funded. And we're doing that by connecting impact investing to the creative economy. Very early on, we realized that the lessons of gender lens investing applied for us, because what we realized is there had been impact investing touching the creative economy historically through community development finance institutions, through a whole range of impact funds focused on women entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs of color, funds that were focused in particular geographic regions, particularly activities that were community oriented. And so it wasn't so much that we had to test or create whether the creative economy was investable by impact investors. We had to reveal, to bring into view, to make visible the track record of activity that had already been happening, where values aligned capital was seeking socially minded entrepreneurs. And so we realized that that's what lenses do, right? They bring stuff into focus. They allow you to see things that you might have otherwise not been able to see and recognize. So early on in Upstart's first year, we turned to the mothers of gender lens investing and said, listen, what did you do? Could we borrow your recipe? How can we learn from the experience of gender lens investing and apply this to the creative economy? We got fantastic advice. Basically, they said it's a 3-part recipe: make the case, build the coalition, and bring investable products to market. So we have really lived by that mantra. We've made the case through original research, conversations that we've led at places like SOCAP and Mission Investors Exchange Conference, the report that we just released with our partners at Nesta and Fundación Compromiso, which is obviously focused on creativity, culture, and capital, impact investing in the global creative economy. So we've done a lot to sort of frame the story and make the case in that way. Building the coalition. In June 2020, Upstart CoLab launched a member community in the spirit of Tonic or Prime Coalition, a place to bring together artists, art lovers, foundations that fund in the arts, endowed cultural institutions. So we've got 4 foundations, 4 families, and 2 endowed arts organizations who've come together in this cohort to be the pioneers and the ambassadors for this idea of what impact investing in the creative economy could look like. In aggregate, these 10 members represent $1 billion of investment capacity. And already in the new year, we're just a couple weeks into 2021. Our investors in the last couple weeks have committed and closed almost $2 million in 2 different opportunities that we've brought to them. So we're very, very excited about seeing the money go to work. So that's what happens when you build a coalition. More recently, we have brought together 12 museums from around the country who are brand new to the topic of impact investing, but recognize that if they're going to express values around diversity, equity, and inclusion, one important place that they can act on those values is within their endowment in terms of diverse manager strategies and making sure that they're not investing in companies that are predatory in any way in communities of color. So that's going to be a very exciting group. Cultural institutions have frankly been lagging behind foundations and universities when it comes to institutional impact investing. So we're excited to help these 12 museums who represent $4 billion of endowments to investigate what mission-related investing can look like for them. And then the third piece of the puzzle, bringing investable products to market. We're very proud to have worked with LISC in New York City in 2018 and 19 to launch the first impact fund fully focused on the creative economy in the United States, the LISC New York City Inclusive Creative Economy Fund. It was a small fund that was intended to prove to LISC leadership that if you build it, they will come. If you ring fence opportunities within a community development strategy for creative economy. There are a whole slew of art-loving investors who will be excited to work with a strong partner like LISC to deploy their capital. And so that funding was very focused on supporting affordable spaces in New York City where creative economy businesses could start up and grow and deliver quality jobs to middle skill workers. And LISC has now brought the creative economy as one of the 6 key themes that they're funding through their new National Notes program. So we were very excited that, having proved the concept in New York, our partners at LISC were able to bring this idea to scale nationally through their recent notes issuance. And, Upstart has realized from the beginning, we're going to be small and scrappy and really focus as a field builder. So it's going to be crucial to work with important partners like a LISC or partners like Community Investment Management to bring these ideas to scale meaningfully so that investors can put capital to work in the creative economy.
And all of this is relevant in the year 2021 because the UN has made this year the year of what?
It's the International Year for Creative Economy and Sustainable Development, Brian. And look in your mailbox. I'll be sending you a Creative Economy t-shirt so you can celebrate all year long.
Investing in the creative economy isn't just investing through a singular lens. It's the intersectionality of gender and diversity and race and everything else that goes into the creative economy.
Absolutely. I mean, when we started to frame the creativity lens, we realized there are 2 ways you can organize the argument. So one is to talk to art lovers and artists and arts institutions and say, hey, impact investing has a place for you, and you can align your capital with your social and environmental priorities and put that money to work in the creative economy and augment the government and the philanthropic support for arts and culture in the United States and around the world. So you can talk to the people who already are arts lovers. But we think that there's also a strong argument to be made to all impact investors, that if they've been overlooking what in the United States is about 5% of our economy right now, or as we've said, what's about to be 10% of the global economy, if you're an impact investor and you're just looking for the best possible opportunities to drive impact and drive financial return, and you're ignoring 5 to 10% of the entire economy, you're going to be missing some great opportunities. So regardless of whether you love the arts, if you are serious about your impact investing, you don't want to miss 5 to 10% of the quality opportunities that are out there for impact and financial return.
Well, that's great. I think that's a good place to leave it. Thank you so much, Laura.
My pleasure, Brian. Great to talk to you.
Culture connects us, the cellist Yo-Yo Ma noted in a recent essay published on Impact Alpha. It is how we create meaning, find purpose, understand each other, experience wonder, and construct new realities, he wrote. Many observers of the inauguration this week experienced wonder at the young poet Amanda Gorman, this week's Agent of Impact. Here's an excerpt of her poem, The Hill We Climb.
We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us...
That's going to do it for your Impact Briefing this week. You can read all of these stories at impactalpha.com. Impact Alpha's podcasts are available wherever you listen. They are made possible by Impact Alpha subscribers. Join them and receive the daily brief and full access to impactalpha.com and more. Podcast listeners get $100 off their annual subscription. Go to impactalpha.com/subscribe and use the code BRIEFING100 for $100 off. Thanks for listening, and thanks to our producer Isaac Silk. I'm Brian Walsh, head of Impact for the fintech company Liquidnet. Take care and be well.